So the Texans traded for Stephon Diggs today, so they have been really loading up this offseason. Now, how are the Jaguars going to respond? Let's discuss. So as always, this video is brought to you by BetUS, and I actually checked the odds before and after the Stephon Diggs trade. So before the trade went on, I'll put both sides up on the screen. The odds were pretty close between Texans, Jags, and Colts when it comes to winners of the AFC South, but the odds shifted drastically in the Texans' favor after the Stephon Diggs trade, and now they're kind of overwhelming favorites to win the AFC South. Now, what does this mean? It doesn't really mean anything right now. It just means that, Vegas enjoys and kind of likes the Texans to win this one. But we are Jaguars, and Jaguars, I think, do their best hunting from the shadows. So while the Houston Texans get all of this love, I'm kind of glad that the Jaguars can kind of take a back seat and kind of get the attention taken off of them. So with all that said, what do you guys think? Will the Jaguars win the AFC South? Do they have a shot to win the AFC South, or do you need to see what happens in the draft? Regardless, guys, BetUS is going to have you guys covered if you want to put any money down on any of these deals. They're going to offer you a 125% deposit bonus on the first 3 deposits. And as we exit this little promo, quick word from BetUS.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
So like I said earlier, the Texans are loading up. Some of their offseason acquisitions include, like today's trade for Stephon Diggs. They also signed Danielle Hunter in free agency. They traded for Joe Mixon and turned around and gave him a new contract. They also signed Danico Autry from the Titans, and they also brought in a former first-round pick, Jeff Okudah, at cornerback. So the Texans definitely had a great offseason. I would say the Jaguars had a good offseason. I think I like pretty much everything they did, except I hated the way they handled the Josh Allen, Calvin Ridley situation. Would have liked to have been able to extend Josh Allen and let Calvin Ridley play on a 1-year franchise tag deal, but it didn't really work out. So with all that said, we're going to move forward with what the Jaguars did. Now, as we look at this mode now, we're kind of shifting to draft mode, and I'm going to have a lot of, draft videos coming up in the next few weeks, but I do want to address this, Houston Texans thing while it's hot and while kind of the whole entire league is talking about it. Jaguars need to do what's right for Trevor Lawrence, okay? We've seen really teams all over the place do really good things for their young quarterback. I mean, you see C.J. Stroud going into his second year. They bring in a Stephon Diggs for him, and they have a Tank Dell, in the arsenal as well. You remember when they brought in Tyreek Hill to help out Tua. You remember when the Eagles traded for A.J. Brown to kind of help out, Jalen Hurts over there. And it's time for the Jaguars to make a big move to bring in a guy for Trevor Lawrence, because look, he has never really had, I think he has a bunch of really good role players. Like, I love Evan Ingram, great tight end, but he's no electrifying receiving threat. I love Christian Kirk. He's a great slot wide receiver, and he's really dependable. You saw the level of the Jaguars drop off when Christian Kirk was out of the Jaguars lineup, but he's no super dynamic player. And what you get out of Zay Jones and Gabe Davis, I guess thus far in their career, is that they're very, very hit or miss. So with that said, the Jaguars need to figure out how to get their Jamar Chase, need to figure out how to get their Justin Jefferson, need to figure out how to get their star wide receiver. And quite frankly, these players generally come in a draft. So with that said, look, I'm all in on a wide receiver in the first round. And I'm usually one that's pretty conservative when it comes to, keep your draft picks, load up on players. But now I'm at the point where Jaguars have pick number 17, do anything possible to go move and get a wide receiver. Okay, I think the Jaguars really need to do whatever they can, see what happens with the draft board. And look, if Roma Dunze or Malik Neighbors specifically, if those guys are available at picks like 8, 9, or 10, at number 8, you had the Atlanta Falcons. At number 9, you had the Chicago Bears. At number 10, you have the New York Jets. I'm sure all those teams would be interested in a potential move back in a draft. Look, check out and see what's going on. try to strike up some moves with them, talk about some trades, and then go up and get your guy. Okay, I'm tired. I don't really want to wait to see what's there at pick number 17. I know it's a wide receiver deep draft, but the Jaguars need a very, very specific wide receiver. Okay, we don't. I'm not trying to say, oh, it's cool. We'll just draft. Ricky Pearsall in the second round. We'll draft one of these. No, I want an outside receiving threat that is versatile, that can win the 50-50 balls, that can run all the routes. I want that player, okay? I don't want a guy that fits one role that's just like, okay, this guy's going to run straight and go deep and catch the ball. I want a guy that's twitchy and versatile, can do it all. And, so far, you have almost, when you look at the first round, you kind of have three tiers. You have the Marvin Harrison Jr., and then you have Malik Neighbors and Roma Dunze in that kind of same echelon, and then you have kind of the rest of the guys, Brian Thomas Jr., Adonis Mitchell, those guys in tier 3. So I think the Jaguars need to figure out a way to really get a dynamic receiver. And if a trade from the 17 to 10 happens, maybe you give up a third and a fourth round pick, or maybe if you trade up to number 8, maybe you give up a third round pick this year and like a second round pick next year, something like that. I think would be excellent for the Jaguars to do. And if all else fails, if, I've been doing a lot of PFF mock drafts, and it's like first 3 picks, quarterback, and then a lot of times it's like wide receiver. I mean, obviously the Jaguars can't afford to go from pick number 17 to pick number 6 overall. In today's NFL, that's too big of a swing to go after a non-quarterback. But, with this, I think that if all options are off the table and those guys go, maybe kick the tires back on a Brandon Ayuk situation. I mean, we've seen some interesting draft day trades. I mean, A.J. Brown was traded on draft day. You know what I mean? It's essentially the same kind of thing. All of a sudden, the Titans were on the board, or was it the Eagles were on the board, and all of a sudden, boom, they traded that pick for A.J. Brown. All of a sudden, the Titans were on the board. You know what I mean? I wonder if the same kind of thing happens with the Jaguars. If these guys are off the board, you figure out what kind of contract Brandon Ayuk's going to need, then you do it. Is he going to command a first-round pick? Maybe if the first round kind of shrinks up and then second round is there, maybe the San Francisco 49ers will ask a little bit less, of draft compensation. But I keep those options on the table. And look, if those don't work out, then just figure out a guy, man. Who's going to fit the offense? Is it the Brian Thomas Jr.? Is it the Adonis Mitchell? Who is it that you think? Is it Xavier Worthy? Who is it that's going to really be able to make your offense and take it to the next level? I don't know. And look, I know some people aren't about receiver, but, some people will say we're good at receiver. But look, is our receiving group scaring anybody? Is anybody, like when I look at the Dolphins, if I were playing the Dolphins in week 1, when I'm looking ahead at that, I'm like, how are we going to guard Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, those guys? Is anybody going to look at the Jaguars and be like, oh crap, they have Christian Kirk and Gabe Davis? You know what I mean? Like, me personally, I like our wide receiver group. I really do like it, but we're not elite. I mean, let's be honest, it's not an elite group, and I want to do anything possible to, upgrade that spot and finally get dynamic on that unit. And I think a lot of our needs and holes were filled up decently. I probably still a hole at cornerback. There's a hole at wide receiver 1, but every other unit, if you stay healthy, I think it's pretty good. Of course, healthy is key. And the Jaguars last 2 years, it's been the big issue has been depth. You know what I mean? I think the Jaguars in 2022 were very top heavy, okay? But the Jaguars didn't get injured very much in 2022, so they were able to ride that roster into the playoffs. In 2023, when players started getting hurt, nobody to back them up, just didn't work out well. So those are some of my thoughts. What do you guys think? Am I crazy? Am I loco? Or are you guys on my side? Would love to know. Thank you guys for watching. Shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this video. 125% deposit bonus in the description box down below. And I'll see you guys next time.